The Wednesday Warmup. Welcome back to the Wednesday Warmup. We are preparing to go into Week 8, and we're going to recap Week 7 right now. Now, the game that I want to recap quickly is the Seahawks versus the Cardinals game. I know Millan and I were watching this game in shock in the overtime as we were just watching it go back and forth, and we're like, who is going to win this game? It came down to the very last seconds of the game. Millan, what are your thoughts?
I think this game really showed that Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals are legit. Coming into the season, they got DeAndre Hopkins, which is another threat along with Larry Fitzgerald, but we didn't really know how good they're actually going to be because you got a San Francisco 49ers team that are the reigning NFC champs. You got Seattle, whose offense has been absolutely disgusting, and a defense that's been pretty good. And then you got the Rams, who's been okay, but not, great. So it's kind of like, where are they? And they won a couple of games. They're looking pretty good. They were 5-2, I think they were 4-2. And then you're facing up against the Seattle team. And basically, this division will go through Seattle, in my opinion. And they played their asses off. They looked great on offense and on defense. Kyler Murray was able to extend plays, force the ball downfield. And this basically showed that this team is going to be a playoff team come January.
I would agree with that completely. They have really shown up this year, and they've shown us what they can do with the weapons that they have on offense. And the thing that I think it came down to the most in the final seconds of the game was the Seahawks defense. Now, they are a pretty strong defense. You never see them in a game getting too worn out, even if they're on the field multiple times during one quarter. They never get tired. But in this game, as many commentators were saying, you're seeing all the defenders with their hands on their hips. They were super tired. They're just worn out from playing such a long game. So I think that just got to them in the end, and Kyler Murray kind of took over at the end.
Definitely.
Now, going into Week 8, we start off with our Thursday night game, the 1-6 Falcons versus the 3-4 Panthers. I'm going to give this one to the Panthers. The Falcons have showed up not a lot this year. They showed that they can win a game after firing their head coach, but after last week's really close game with the Lions that I didn't think would be super close, it doesn't show much hope for them, and I think the Panthers are just going to run all over them.
I agree with him. I don't know if they're going to run all over them, but I think it'll be a pretty good game. I'm also going to give it to the Panthers. We saw the Falcons win that one game against the Minnesota Vikings, so they do have the ability. But what they don't show is consistency, and that's what you need in this league in any sport. You need consistency, be able to show that you can do it multiple times. And I think the Panthers have one of a pretty good offense. With Teddy Bridgewater, like you've been saying, trying to figure themselves out after the loss of Cam Newton to the Patriots. But now with Teddy Bridgewater, they're slowly finding the legs, and probably not a playoff team because of their competitiveness in the NFC, but they're definitely going to be looking like a playoff scare.
Going into the first 1:00 Sunday game, the Steelers versus Ravens. Now, I know this is a very controversial game. I know you and I have had lots of talks about this game, especially you being a Steelers fan. The Steelers are taking on their first, I'd say, real good competitor this season that will actually give them a decent amount of trouble, I'd say. And honestly, I can see the Ravens winning it, so I'm going to give it to them because the Steelers, while they have a great offense and an amazing, unstoppable defense, I feel like the Ravens can learn from what the Titans did last week. As the Titans kept the game pretty close, I think the Ravens could take off of that with their whole running game and the offense. And if they have the great running game with Lamar Jackson, I think they can come out and beat the Steelers.
I got a couple of things to say about this one, especially for me being a Steelers fan. Number one, I think this is going to be the second biggest task. I mean, obviously last week was one of them. As coach like Mike Tomlin, it's October football, NFC North ball is in the kitchen. And this is the game of the week for the third straight week, in my opinion. They played the Browns 2 weeks ago. Last weekend was the game of the week against the 5-0 Tennessee Titans. They came out victorious. And then you got this game again. And obviously this is going to be a big step up from the Titans and from the Cleveland Browns. But I think this will be a really fun game to watch. Number one, because we got to see let's see what Lamar Jackson brings to the table. Number one, he hasn't been running as much as he used to last season. Every other play you'd see Lamar Jackson run. But now this season, you see him sitting back in the pocket, firing the ball. And it's not like he doesn't do well in it. He still has been firing the ball, making plays downfield. But we don't see him running as often, which arguably is his best strong suit as a quarterback. Number two, with the Pittsburgh defense, you can eliminate the run already. Like, if you're going to play the Pittsburgh Steelers, you're not going to run the ball on them. I promise you that. Pittsburgh Steelers held Derrick Henry, shut him down, shut down Saquon Barkley, shut down Miles Sanders, shut down Kareem Hunt. there is no way you're most likely going to be running against the Steelers defense. You're going to have to be throwing the ball. Now, this is going to be a tough game because, in my opinion, Baltimore Ravens do have a complete defense, and I think they're better than Pittsburgh when it comes to points allowed, yards allowed, quarterback rating. I think they're better in that sense than Pittsburgh's defense. But I think if you're looking at the Steelers as a whole, I think they have a better team, well-rounded team. There is no holes in any part of their team. Offensively, they look strong. It's pick your poison pretty much when it comes to wide receivers. Chase Claypool, who had a monster game against Philadelphia and Cleveland, only had one reception for -2 yards. You got James Washington, who can get the ball down the field. Juju Smith-Schuster as well, Deontay Johnson, Ray McLeod, all these guys. Let's not forget the tight ends, and Ebron and McDonald, and then you got the running game with James Conner, who the Ravens are having trouble stopping the run, so that's obviously going to be a big thing to watch. When you're on defense, obviously, Danielle, you talked about it, great defense, big front seven that's going to get after the quarterback. And then on special teams, that's something that nobody really talks about, and special teams is the biggest thing because with a good special teams, the Steelers would have lost that game against Tennessee. You're looking at punt returns with Ray McLeod, getting down, being able to break free of tackles, getting them into better field position. So these are all things that add up when you start to play real teams like the Baltimore Ravens. One thing I'm going to look for is I'm assuming the Pittsburgh Steelers, their game plan is going to be get the ball first, get Lamar Jackson down. Because when Lamar Jackson is behind in a football game, he cannot come back. And we've seen that in the postseason. We've seen that in the regular season with the Chiefs. If the Steelers can get ahead of Lamar Jackson and have a lead, it will be a very tough match for Lamar Jackson, and that will be what we can see. Lamar, when you flip it over to the defensive side with the Ravens, they blitz the most in the NFL, and they're very successful when it comes to blitzing. They're second in sacks behind Pittsburgh, but you're also coming off of a QB who's against the blitz. He has the highest completion rating against the blitz. He second most touchdowns against the blitz, and the third best passer rating. So it's not an easy team to blitz on with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So this is going to be a very fun matchup, and it's a very even matchup. And you get to play each other twice, obviously, with Thanksgiving night. The Pittsburgh Steelers are hot right now. I'm not going to vote against my boys until I absolutely have to. I'm going with the Pittsburgh Steelers on this one. I think they're hot right now. They're very confident going into this game, and they've showed no signs of slowing down, and they've looked the best. I'm not saying they're the best team in the AFC, but they've looked the best, and they're still trying to figure themselves out. And they're getting better every single game, and that's something that people don't know. Is that if they can play a full 60 minutes of what they played in the first half, I think they will be unbeatable this season.
And kind of to touch on what you're saying about their defense against Derrick Henry, I mean, obviously they did a great job stopping Derrick Henry, especially because of how great of a running back he is, but I think they didn't stop him as much as he could have, so I would say that's a little bit concerning. Like, as much as they did stop them a decent amount of the times, there was multiple times when Derrick Henry had a solid run, so I wouldn't be too interested about that. Moving on to the next game, we have the Rams versus the Dolphins. I feel like there's really not much to say about this game except that the Rams are going to win. I feel like the Rams have showed up this year. They have shown what they're worth. They are showing that they can win and they can be a good competitor this year. The Dolphins have not done that with a 3-3 record. They're obviously doing better than the Patriots in their league, which not shocker at all. But I definitely think the Rams will have a pretty easy win here.
I'm debating on this one here because I like what you said with the Rams. They're a full team. They played a lot better. I also like the Dolphins because they're getting Tua back. This is the first time Tua, and that could bring a new dynamic to this team. But nonetheless, I'm gonna give this one to the Rams. I think in the first game of the season for Tua, it's gonna be hard to face Aaron Donald. One of the best defensive rushers in the NFL, and he's gonna pretty much terrorize Tua, a rookie quarterback. Along with Jared Goff, though, on the offensive side of the ball, really coming off of a great win against the Bears. So I'm gonna continue the Rams going 6-2, and I think the Rams are gonna win this game.
And kind of going along what you're saying about Tua is since he's a great quarterback, he just hasn't gotten used to the NFL climate. It's a whole new world for them, and especially you've seen that with Joe Burrow. He was an amazing quarterback, and now he's doing well for what he was, the situation he was put in, but obviously not his fullest potential. And it takes a little while to get into that groove, and I'd say give it 2 or 3 years, and he's going to be an amazing quarterback who's just going to start off, and he's going to be amazing. The next game is the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Jets. The Jets are 0-7, and the Chiefs are 6-1. I think I'm gonna go with the Jets here. Don't you think? Yeah.
Yeah, obviously.
I mean, yeah, but Kansas City, I'm going to take in this game because they have amazing offensive weapons with Edwards-Helaire, who's been an amazing rookie. I've had him on my team on fantasy, and he's done amazing. He came out of nowhere, honestly, and really shocked us all. You have Patrick Mahomes, you have Kelsey. You just have so many weapons on offense that just will not stand to the Jets defense. They don't have a defense, as we've seen the past few games, but they kept a close match against the Bengals, which was really shocking to me. So maybe they'll score a few times in this game, but I really don't think so.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on this one. I was thinking about, like, if there could be an underdog, who would win? And I was thinking the Jets for a minute, and then I'm like, no, I just can't see that happening. I mean, you hit it right on the bud. It's pick your poison with their offense. You know, you got Hilaire back up with Bell. You got Mahomes. You got Tyreek Hill, Kelsey. You know, you got all these different weapons, and it's tough for them to stop. The defensive side of the ball, though, they looked a lot better. You know, when they played Denver, you know, they were able to get after the quarterback, and they looked good. You know, and that's what I was worried about, is that if their defense is not up to what they're part of, they're not gonna be, you know, they're gonna struggle. You know, but they've looked better, and I think they can continue that streak to get better this week, and it'll be a good time to try some new things against a struggling Jets team. So I'm going to give this one to the Kansas City Chiefs.
For sure, and I had the Chiefs defense last week, and they got me 23 points, 26 points, so they really showed up last week, and I'm taking them again against the Jets because I feel like that's a good bet. The next game is the 1-5 Vikings versus the 5-1 Packers. I'm going to take the Packers in this because they have Aaron Rodgers, and that's the main thing in this game. You need a good quarterback, and the Vikings quarterback, Kirk Cousins, have obviously not shown up this year, considering that they've only won one game. Now, Aaron Rodgers, you give him the ball, even if this comes down to the very last minute of the game, and if Aaron Rodgers has the ball, he's going to score. Aaron Rodgers, I think, is one of the best quarterbacks in the end of the game. So even if it comes down to the last second, I'm still going to give it to the Packers because they know what to do in the last few minutes of the game if they're down.
Yeah, you hit it right there. You know, Aaron Rodgers is experienced. He has a good weapon. You got good weapons around him. You know, Dalvin Cook, I don't know the availability on him, but I don't think that would make a huge difference. I think it would be a closer game with Dalvin Cook. Nonetheless, I'm giving this one to the Packers. You know, they're at home. It's a 1:00 game, and it's just the Packers are just on the ball, and the Minnesota Vikings are just missing something. It's not their year, and I'm gonna give this one to the Packers pretty easily.
And it's sad because the Vikings honestly did really well last year, and I was like, oh, okay, like they're gonna be pretty hot next year, but they did not prove me right.
Yeah, I think it was just the loss of, you know, Stephon Diggs really hurt them on the offensive side of the ball. And you lose your best wide receiver. I mean, it's tough.
The next game, I would say, is one of the most competitive games this week, the Colts versus Lions. Now, I know that sounds weird saying the Colts versus Lions is going to be a close game, but both teams have done better this year than I thought for sure. Both teams were kind of underdogs, and they've always been kind of treated like, oh, they're an average team, or oh, they're not so good. But this year, the Colts are 4-2. They've shown that they can win a game, and they know how to play an entire football game. I'm going to give it to the Colts because they seem to be doing way better this year. But the Lions, I wouldn't be surprised if they win it, especially considering they won against Falcons, which isn't hard to do, I know. But the Falcons had just lost their head coach, and they knew exactly how to win because you've seen that. They've won a game, and they have great offensive weapons, but they were able to stop that and keep it a close game, but they're able to win. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a little bit of competition here.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that one. I think the Colts are going to win this game. The defense is looking really, really good. 4-2, you know, and it was like a Pittsburgh Steelers team last year. They got a really good defense and an okay offense. You know, I think Phillip Rivers is going to do just enough to put enough points on the board to beat the Lions.
The next 1:00 game is the Raiders versus the Browns. Now, the Browns have done a lot better this season than a lot of people expected them to. They're 5-2 at the moment. This is going to be an interesting game. I'm going to give it to the Browns, which might sound a little bit crazy, but the Raiders only have a 3-3 record. Now, going into this, the Browns had just lost Odell Beckham Jr. because he is hurt with a ACL tear, I think.
Yep.
So that's definitely going to be a huge loss for them, but he hasn't actually done as much this season as I expected him to. He had one or two pretty good, like high scoring weeks, but he hasn't been the main offensive contender for them. And honestly, I feel like Baker Mayfield can easily pull out a win against the Raiders.
Yeah, and you're saying the Browns have been doing well, and they have been, but not at the expense of Baker Mayfield. I think with Baker Mayfield has been absolutely terrible this whole year. And he's shown he can play well against average teams. I guess you could say Oakland's going to be an average team, but when it comes down to playing elite teams like with the Steelers and with the Ravens, he can't do it. When the game's on Baker Mayfield's shoulder, he cannot produce. He threw five touchdown passes last week. Maybe it was four, but they were playing the Bengals, so it's not really not that like impressive. And he threw a couple picks in that game too. And then you got Odell Beckham going down. I'm going to give this one to the Raiders. The Raiders are a sneaky good team that win more games than I think they're going to supposed to, and they're going to win games against these types of teams. And I'm going to give this one to the Raiders. I like their offense and what they're doing, and the defense is stepping up, making progress every single week.
The next 1 o'clock game is the 5-1. Wow, sounds weird to say. The 5-1 Titans versus the 5-1 Bengals. I'm going to give this one to the Titans because one reason only, Derrick Henry, as we know. The Bengals do not have the defense to stop them. I think that's pretty clear, especially because the Steelers were able to stop them, but they had multiple times when they weren't able to because of how good Derrick Henry is. No, guaranteed, like that was only a few times that happened with the Steelers, but that's the best defense in the league going up against Derrick Henry, and they still let him get a few yards. So with the Bengals defense that isn't anywhere close to the Steelers defense, I feel like they're easily going to pull out a win against them.
Yeah, and like you said, Derrick Henry is a different species. You know, he's insane. And to go into the Steelers game, the Steelers needed to stop him. And we shut him down for 78 yards, which you could say is not really shutting him down. But for Derrick Henry's standards, that's shutting down because he's used to getting 150-plus yards in the game and multiple touchdowns. Now, when you shut down for 78 yards, by the way, Joe Mixon, running back for the Bengals, had 74 yards, and that was his career. That was his season high last week. So there's a big difference between, and you're looking at a front seven for the Bengals that are just not. There's no motivation. There's no power. There's no anger. And the Tennessee Titans, that loss, they're still a very good team. They're a sneakily good team. They need to fix some things on the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, special teams is a big thing. You need to fire Steven Gostkowski. I don't know why they haven't done that yet. And the wide receiver core, A.J. Brown, has been very good. And again, Derrick Henry is just going to run all over this Bengals team. I'm going to give this easily to the Titans.
And kind of like we're saying with Tua, Joe Burrows is still a new quarterback. While he was great at LSU, and I loved watching him play college football, it was like freaking watching Patrick Mahomes, but the college version. Yeah. And it was just insane watching what he would just destroy the other college teams. But when he went to the NFL, it's a whole new season playing against teams that have Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, Big Ben, all of those counters, where he's just not as good and he just hasn't gotten used to it. Now, 2 or 3 years, just like Tua, he'll be amazing, but at the moment, he just hasn't found that click yet.
Yeah.
The last 1 o'clock game of this week is the 2-4 Patriots versus the 5-2 Bills. I feel like there's a clear winner in this game. Obviously, the Patriots. No, the Bills. The Bills are the best in the league right now over the Patriots. The Bills and the Dolphins are above the Patriots, which never happens. This is an awful year for Patriot fans. But the Bills have shown up, especially with Josh Allen this year, and they are easily going to destroy the Patriots. The Patriots don't have the defense that they did either. While they have players like Gilmore and other great players, a lot of them decided to opt out of the season because of COVID. But I feel like this is just going to be a complete destroy of the Patriots offense and the defense. While we do have Cam and Julian Edelman, you can't rely on them. And while Cam is a great quarterback and he's shown up a lot this season, just not as much as I thought he would. And he's not been doing well the past few games ever since he got COVID. I don't think he's been able to fully recover back into his quarterback shape after that. So it's an easy win for the Bills, I'd say.
Yeah, this is a lot of people asking me who's Patriots fans. When do I give up on the New England Patriots? When should we just say they're not going to make the playoffs? Number one, the coach is still Bill Belichick, and this is probably a must-win game if you're the New England Patriots. And when the New England Patriots are desperate under Bill Belichick, he throws some weird stuff at you. Like when they get desperate, I think that's when they're the most dangerous. And I would love to say that New England's going to take this win. Because this is probably a must-win game, and Belichick's going to finally pull something out. I'm It's just I don't think it's going to happen against the Bills. If they're playing another team like the Jets or maybe even the Dolphins, that we probably would have another conversation. But I think the Bills are just too good right now. And like you've been saying with with Tua and with Joe Burrow, this is Josh Allen's third year, and we've finally seen the best of Josh Allen. He's been absolutely dirty. And we'll finally get to see if he's a real deal this season. With the addition of Diggs. Singletary got into the defensive side of the ball, who's still been strong. And I think this is going to be it won't be a blowout, but I think it will be a win handily. It will be a handled win by the Bills.
And kind of take the other side of the Bills, though, they scored 18 points against the Jets, and they were losing a long time against the Jets. Now, the Jets hadn't won a game at all, and it came down to 8 points. They won 8 points over the Jets, and it wasn't their week last week. I don't know if they were like, oh, it's the Jets, like we don't need to prepare as much because it's an easy win, and they were just shown up a little bit. But if that's the way that they play this week, I feel like the Patriots could win. Now, I'm not going to say that's going to happen because Josh Allen is freaking amazing, especially that he's shown us that this season. But if they do play like that, I'd say it's an easy win for the Patriots. But it just depends on the week. But easy win for the Bills, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely.
The first 4:00 game is the 2-4 Chargers take on the 2-4 Broncos. Very evenly matched, but I'm going to give it to the Chargers because of Justin Herbert. He has really come out of nowhere, and he has become one of my favorite new quarterbacks. I just love watching him play because I didn't know about him really before the season. And he came out, I was like, whoa, who's this Justin guy? He's good. And I feel like they have that advantage because the Broncos don't have that kind of quarterback. I feel like in order to have a great offense and a great game against each other, you need two pretty well-matched quarterbacks, and I think Justin Herbert is just way better than the Broncos quarterback.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that one. Justin Herbert, like you said, came out of nowhere, and he's been absolutely dirty. Although he's only won, 2 games, but that's because, but then he's actually technically only won 1 game because the first game he didn't win. But I like watching Justin Herbert play. He's calm under pressure. He's able to extend plays, and he has a great arm. And they're just starting to get, hot and figure themselves out. And against this Broncos team that's been struggling both offensively and defensively, when you could say the only good thing about the Broncos is their special teams, I would give this one to the Chargers to make this one. It would be a very fun game to watch.
It is, and especially because the Chargers, every game that they've lost, even though they've lost 4 games, they've kept it a pretty good match. I said that last week, and I'm going to continue to say that until I'm really proved wrong, but they've shown that they're in it, and they've played some pretty good teams this year, some contenders compared to some other teams that have not played very well teams at all. I feel like they've actually had to work and put in the work for at least the 2 wins that they have, and every game they put in competition, and they show that they can work hard, so it'll be interesting. The next 4:00 game is the 4-3 49ers take on the 5-1 Seahawks. I love it when the Seahawks and 49ers play each other. Just 2 teams that have been pretty good, especially last year. It was those were 2 amazing teams. The 49ers are unreliable this year. I mean, even though they did win over the Patriots, which I didn't really think was going to happen. But they're unreliable, and so I can easily see the Seahawks winning, especially with Russell Wilson, and they need to get back on the train after losing to the Cardinals. I feel like they're going to be fired up. They're going to come out here with some kind of revenge because they need to win this next game to really show that, like, hey, it was just like a mistake. It was just like 1 game. We're going to put that behind us. And we're going to keep on to better things if they really want to be a Super Bowl contending team. Now, I think Russell Wilson, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league right now. And so I feel like he's going to easily have an easy time beating Garoppolo. And the 49ers defense isn't all there this year.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that. They're still trying to figure themselves out. They had a Super Bowl hangover, but now they've won 2 straight, 4-3. They're looking looking like maybe there's something there. Like there's some resemblance of that 2019 like NFC Championship team. But then you're going in, and then this game will be the test. You know, you play New England, utterly destroyed them. Now you're actually playing a real division rival in the Seattle Seahawks. And on the flip side, Seattle, you know, lost this game, pissed off. Remember last time you played the 49ers, you had a controversial call at the end of the game. If it was a touchdown or if it was not a touchdown, you know, and they're going to want some revenge on this game. And if you win this game, especially with Arizona on a bye, this will really put you forward in a good place to win a game. To win a division.
The next game is the 4-2 Saints versus the 5-2 Bears. Now, like I was saying with the 49ers, the Saints haven't been reliable this year. Now, even though they've won 4 games, they've lost some pretty sad games, I'd say. Who have they lost to?
I don't know specifically off the top of my head, but they have not.
Yeah.
They've lost some games.
Yeah, and they weren't good games either, and they just didn't seem like that good fire that the Saints usually have, especially with Drew Brees and Kamara and Cook. You would think that they'd be doing a little bit better and kind of have more of that like passion and energy. But I feel like when I watch the Saints play, they don't have the drive to do well. I know obviously they want to win, but I feel like they don't have that drive where they're like, we're going to come out, we're going to win, we're going to try our best, we're going to do this. Because you see that in so many teams that are just working their butts off to just do good. But I feel like when the Saints come on to play, I feel like they're like, oh, it's just a game, we're just going to play. Like, we could be really good this year, but I feel like they're just not to their fullest potential and they don't use their passions well enough. So I feel like I wouldn't be surprised if the Bears win. I'm going to give it to the Saints anyway, but I just wouldn't be surprised if somehow the Bears win.
Yeah, and then the 2 teams they lost to was the Green Bay Packers and the Las Vegas Raiders. One, you could say, okay, that's fine. I mean, the Green Bay Packers are good, but then you say Oakland, well, that's kind of, you know, that's not like you, you know. And you, like you said, Drew Brees hasn't been playing the way Drew Brees has played in the past. And you're surprised because you have a Kamara who's been very, very good. The defense has been okay, but not horrible. And so you're wondering, like, what's been going on? Why aren't you like there? Why aren't you being a dominant force? Because this is like Drew Brees is coming up to his final years in the NFL before he's going to probably pull the plug on his career. And obviously I'd like to see him win one more Super Bowl. And last year could have been a year. This year could have been a year. And then you got on this flip side, you know, the Bears lost an embarrassing game against the Rams where they just did not look good on all cylinders. I'm giving this one, like you said, to the Saints. I think they'll be able to hit the Bears up with a lot of screen passes to Kamara, a lot of short passes, in which the Bears are having so much trouble covering running backs and giving up a lot of running chunks to running backs. And with Kamara, who's been that good, it will be a big struggle.
For sure. Now, the Sunday night game is the 2-5 Cowboys versus the 2-4-1 Eagles. This is an interesting game. I can't say I'm really rooting for one or the other team because I'm not a huge fan of either. I feel like it's a pretty close matchup. Both teams have a decent amount of weapons that they could use, but I'm going to give it to the Eagles because they have a good quarterback. They have Carson Wentz, where the Cowboys are just struggling quarterback-wise, especially after Andy Dalton, their backup, has a concussion. They're kind of at a loss for quarterbacks this year. They're kind of really wondering what the heck just happened to all of our offensive weapons. Dak Prescott is a great quarterback, and he can easily make so many great passes. He's one of the highest passing yardage quarterback in the league right now, but he just doesn't have that team to back up and actually win games. And now, especially since you take out Dak and Andy Dalton, you're just not going to have that offensive drive and fire that you need to in order to win the game. So I feel like Carson Wentz will have a huge advantage offensively for the Eagles.
Yeah, I got a couple things to say about this one. Number one, why the heck is this a Sunday night football game?
Wondering.
2 teams that have been are not good, for some reason, are a Sunday night football game. Let's take a timeout here, all right? We got Steelers Ravens. I don't know why that's not a Sunday. I know it's a flex the game. Like, really? You can even make the argument Vikings Packers could be a Sunday night game. Bills Patriots could not really.
It's
49ers Seahawks.
It's a division game where it's more like, ooh, who's gonna win?
Steelers Ravens, beautiful division game. Like, I get that was a flex game, so I understand that, but come on. But anyways, besides the point, I'm going to be very blunt as a Steelers fan because I don't like the Packers. I don't like the Cowboys. You guys are an absolute joke. Like
They are.
the rest of the NFL world is watching you. Steeler fans are looking at you because your front management is so bad. Your coach, it's the Antonio Brown situation all over again, where inside the locker room you're having trouble, big trouble, where players are just going against each other, saying the coaches are being absolutely horrible. They do not know how to coach. And then you look at the Andy Dalton concussion. That's the thing that got me, right? I don't know if anyone has seen it. We can't play it up because of copyright reasons. But you look at the concussion, not one. Obviously, that was a dirty concussion. He deserved to be suspended for 2 games, but I don't know why he's not. I don't know if he is or not. When he gets hit, and it's not like, oh, maybe it was by accident. No, it was a deliberate hit to the head, lower the helmet. Literally no one on the Cowboys retaliated. Not one person. Only one person looked down at Andy Dalton and then looked back up. Nobody went after the guy who hit him. There was no type of unity or like that's your leader as a quarterback. You have to protect him at all costs. And you see him go down as dirty as that, and you don't do anything. And there's big issues there. And if you're Jerry Jones, you got to say, hey, what's going on here? There is no leadership. There's no drive. There's nothing here that looks like a Super Bowl winning team. You guys said this was your year. I remember you guys saying this was your year. Guys got CeeDee Lamb, who played absolutely terrible. Now really 3 points against a team that has no name, and you just don't have leadership. And this is gonna be a great opportunity for Ben DiNucci, who's gonna step in, I think, for quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. You flip over now for the Philadelphia Eagles. I forget who they played last week. They played the Giants, and they came out and they played well, which was good. They came from a behind victory. But I think this is going to be a game that the Eagles take. The Dallas Cowboys are absolutely they don't know what they're doing. They're confused. They're struggling, and I think Carson Wentz and the Eagles are good enough to know a struggling team and absolutely destroy them. So I think the Eagles are going to take this one very, very easily.
Yeah, I can agree with you on the sense of them not coming out with any drive, the Cowboys. I see them play, and it's like none of them really want to be there. It's this is my 9-to-5 work job. I'm going to put in the hours now so that I can go home and take a nap or go see my family. Exactly. I feel like that's their vibe, and I haven't seen otherwise from them. Mm-hmm. I like the teams that are even if you're not doing well, you still need to be united. So the Jets, even though they're 0-7, they're a team. They work together. They at least come out and put up a fight. They put up 10 points against the Bills, which shouldn't have happened at all, but they did because they have that leadership and that hard-working drive, where the Cowboys have none of it, and yet they still say that they're going to go to the playoffs in the Super Bowl, which is absolutely false.
Yeah.
I'm a Patriots fan, and we're doing better than you guys lately, and we're not going to the Super Bowl. Just going to put that out. Yeah. I know. Look at the stats, guys. Come on. The very last game of this week is the 5-2 Buccaneers versus the 1-6 Giants. I'm gonna go with the Buccaneers because they have been awesome. Every week I talk about how much they've really come out and shocked me this year. Going into this, I was like, guys, they're not gonna be this good. They just have too much hype. They have Gronk and they have Tom Brady, but old news, it's not gonna happen. In the first week, they came out against the Saints, and they lost. And I was like, I told you guys, I'm right. And I was brutally wrong, as they have won 5 games so far and been dirty. Tom Brady has had one of the best fantasy years statistically in his entire career. He put up 33 points last week. He put up 36 points 2 weeks ago, I think. He's been amazing. And you've seen Gronk started coming into that with multiple touchdown passes. Mike Evans hasn't been a huge contender lately, but he just wants the team to be really successful. Now you're adding Antonio Brown, which he doesn't start this week, but he starts next week. But that is a completely dirty offense. It is stacked. Coming out against the 1-6 Giants, that will be an easy game where they will just run all over them because the Giants do not have the defense to stop Tom Brady or any of their offensive weapons.
Yeah, before we go anywhere, I just want to take this few moments that we have and just apologize to Tom Brady. I didn't think Tom Brady was going to be good this year. After the first couple of days or games, I thought, okay, well, it was Belichick. That's the reason why they were successful. And I would like, if you're watching this for some odd reason, I would like to apologize to you. You have been amazing, and you are the GOAT. Now, like you said, you probably hit it on the dot. And, offensively, I'm not going to really talk about that. But what makes this team good is also their defense has been very good. Held Aaron Rodgers to 10 points when they played the Packers. they've been really good. And they're in the same boat, I feel like, as the Pittsburgh Steelers. If they can get clicking on all cylinders, play a full 60 minutes on both offense and defense, and they got the special teams to back it up, this team is going to be a Super Bowl contending team. And you add AB in the mix, and it's just going to be a very, very dirty offense. I think it's going to be the Buccaneers easily with a hurting New York Giants team.
I agree with you on Tom Brady because last season when he was with the Patriots, I was like, why is he still on this team? I was like, I love you so much, Tom, but he was not throwing out good passes at all. I was shocked when he threw it more than 10 yards. Like, I was like, oh my God, that was amazing. Now he throws like 30-yard passes every single drive that he comes out, and I'm like, oh, okay, you're still really great. Moving on to our locks of the week. Millan, what's your lock of this week?
I was thinking about this one. And obviously, I could easily go Jets and Chiefs and be the lock of the week. That would be fun. Patriots, Bills, Packers, Vikings. Now, those are great locks of the week. But I said, let's try to be a little bit ballsy here. And you're not going to agree with this. Nobody is going to agree with me. I know what you're doing.
I know exactly what it is.
Who do you think is going to be my lock of the week?
I'm guessing you're going to put the Steelers.
Yes.
Shocking.
I'm giving the Steelers a lock in my week. Here's why. Obviously, this game could go either way, and that's why it's going to be risky. The reason why I think the Steelers are going to win, starting from 2019, a year where I'm going to be nice when they said they had sub-quarterback play. They had a quarterback named Duck and a quarterback named Mason. Both guys are on the team still. I don't know why. Now, they went 8-8. They last year and into this year, kind of these two seasons, they are 16-3 when they score 10 points or more on offense. The Steelers right now are averaging 23.4 points a game. And you got a defense that continues to put pressure, shutting down the run. Last time Lamar Jackson played the Pittsburgh Steelers, this game went into overtime. Lamar Jackson only played the Steelers once because they played Week 17 and they benched Lamar because of obvious reasons. They picked off Lamar Jackson 3 times, sacked him 4 times. This game went into overtime. They went into overtime against a quarterback named Mason, who was so bad. No offense, Mason Rudolph, but he was so bad on the Steelers. And that game had to go to overtime, and basically they won, obviously, 23-20. Now you're adding Ben Roethlisberger into the mix. You're adding a different offense into the mix. This is going to be a completely different game, I'm feeling. And it's going to be a fun physical matchup, a 5-star matchup, as Coach Tomlin says. Guys are coming back. Steven Nelson's coming back. You got a guy in Robert Spillane who absolutely shut down Derrick Henry at the 1-yard line. Guys that are stepping up in big, crucial roles. We get Derek Watt back to fullback, and running on the run game has been looking as great as ever. I'm giving this one the lock of the week. It's ballsy, but I'm going to do it. Pittsburgh Steelers over the Baltimore Ravens.
That'll be interesting. I see your point, but this is going to be some real competition for you guys, and I think it might come down to the very last seconds of the game, if not overtime. I wouldn't be surprised if you guys win it, and I can see why you chose that as your lock, but I'd say it's a little bit too close to comfort for mine.
Definitely will not be a blowout of game. It won't be a blowout game.
It will not be a blowout no matter what. I mean, if it happens to be a blowout of either team, you could say I will be shocked, and I'll be coming on here next Wednesday and complete and utter disgrace of honestly both teams.
Yeah.
I could easily go with the easy choice, like you were saying, Kansas City Chiefs versus the Jets, but I'm not going to because I feel like that's not the best decision. I'm gonna go a little bit riskier than that instead.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with the Packers versus the Vikings. Now, that's not risky at all, but you never know when the Vikings can show up. They showed up one game, so it's pretty unpredictable. But the Packers have Aaron Rodgers, and like I said, if it even comes down to the last few minutes of the game, he can easily stop them. Packers' defense has been doing amazing, and the Vikings don't have the offense to match up with that, so I'm going to say the Packers.
Yeah, and like you said, the last 2 minutes of the game, you'd want Aaron Rodgers. I'd also take Tom Brady, one of the best to ever do it down 2 minutes. Ben has been okay. Lamar can't do it, I'll tell you that. So if the Steelers get up on Lamar, that's not going to happen.
You never know. Don't get too excited. You never know. Watch them completely come out and destroy your ass at the end.
We haven't seen it happen yet. So this will be –
Nothing's impossible.
Exactly.
Not 100%.
Except the Jets winning a game. That's impossible.
Watch them win over Kansas City this week.
Yeah, and just because I didn't pick Kansas City doesn't mean I don't think Kansas City is going to win. I think they're obviously going to win, and that'll be a very easy game.
Oh, another good lock you could say is Buccaneers versus Giants.
That's another one, yeah. Buccaneers
that was my backup, I'd say, but I'm going to stick with the Packers.
Titans, Bengals, these different.
We got some good games this week.
Exactly. It'll be a very fun week. Week 8 is going to be fun. Halfway through the season. Next weekend, we'll give our predictions of playoff, of where we're at halfway through the season, what we're going to do for our predictions.
Yes, that will be very interesting because a lot of stuff will also change after our prediction. So we could be brutally wrong and the
Exactly.
Jets could somehow end up going to the playoffs. They won't, but
Yeah,
you never
exactly.
know. To end off this week's episode, I thought I'd give you a fun fact about football. Now, this I came across when I was in class today and I was reading an article and it said Big Ben and Tom Brady have been sacked the most times out of any other quarterback in the league. Now, I kind of looked at this title and was laughing to myself and I was texting Millan. I was like, that's insane. Like, obviously they have. They've been in the league some of the longest ever. Like, what do you expect? But together they have been sacked 1,017 times, 511 of those being Big Ben and 508 of those being Tom Brady. I know this is a pretty useless fact, but I thought
Pretty
I'd
cool.
educate you guys a little bit so you can say you learned one thing from the Wednesday warm-up.
It's very interesting, because Big Ben's not easy to tackle. It's hard, but like he's getting old now, and the Steelers are tied with the lowest sacks in the league. So I found that very interesting to see that. And Tom Brady, like not because he's big, but he has always had a good offensive line against New England, and you never really see him get many sacks against him. And that for me, that was surprising.
It was a little bit surprising, but at the same time, I started thinking, yeah, with both quarterbacks being in the league, what, 20 something years?
Very
Yeah,
young.
it's obviously going to be a pretty high amount. I just didn't know they counted to 1,017 times.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us here on the Wednesday warm up when we discuss week 8. Join us next week as we discuss week 9 and recap week 8, hopefully with some really interesting stats.